you. Okay, in case you were napping, I was just saying, I'm so glad you've joined us at our breakout where we're going to talk about never retiring. It is my honor to introduce our panelists, and we're going to talk about how they're defining their purpose, passion, and plan as they go forward as well. So Donna Orender, did I pronounce that right, Donna?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Learned early on that games played on the courts and in the fields were a vital learning and proving ground for life's opportunities. Recognized as a leader of growth and innovation in several high-profile companies, her ability to pivot as a former professional basketball athlete has served her well. Her passionate pursuit of working on behalf of women and girls is a result of her journey as a professional athlete, a corporate executive, a leader of an iconic business, the WNBA, it's back, a board member, and the CEO of Orender Unlimited, and founder and CEO of Generation W. So give it a hand for Donna. My friend Barbara Stewart is the executive director of the Bowe Stewart Foundation. Barbara previously served in the position appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate as CEO of the Federal Agency for Service and Volunteerism. During her tenure as CEO, Barbara led the agency through a period of transition and transformation, preparing AmeriCorps for significant future growth. Barbara is passionate about service, leadership, philanthropy, and lifelong learning. With nearly 40 years of public, private, and nonprofit experience, Barb, not Miss Stewart, provides significant perspective and strategic thinking to the organization she leads, which we can add as a board member. So let's get started with Donna. I said it in her intro, but she ran the WNBA. Isn't that so cool? I love that. Okay, so, and then you learned a lot about how women work, how people perceive women. I'd love for you to talk to us about that and how that led you to think about what roles you wanted to have as you pursued your passion going forward and how that relates to what you're doing now.
I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. How you doing? You heard that I was a professional athlete. And you know, it's interesting because we tend to frame ourselves by the work that we've done. How many of you, right? I am this. It's funny, I work with teen girls today, and I have them stand up, and I don't ever say that I am a student. I have them say, I am wonderful. I am amazing. I am smart, right? I am whatever they are. And so when we came to talk about this topic, and it's funny, people have asked me this before. I've had a lot of different transitions. And I never thought of them that way. They all seem very natural to me. How does an athlete move to be a corporate executive? Like, people think, no, you're an athlete. But I never thought of myself that way. I always thought of myself as, I know, Charlene, you can relate to this. I frame myself as a competitor. Well, if I can compete on the basketball court, I can compete anywhere. And trust me, when I worked for the PGA Tour also for 17 years, and I walked in among all men. I was the only senior executive in golf for a very, very long time. But when I looked at them, I knew that I could compete. And if they didn't know it, they would find out. Right? And that was really important. I think that's why I feel so strongly about young girls especially, and it's growing, participating in sports, because we learn how to compete. But I also knew that I was all about excellence, because if I wasn't about excellence, I wouldn't be competing at the highest level in this country in a sport that I absolutely love. So wherever I go, I was going to bring excellence. And so my career actually, and I never thought, and even as we talk about never really retiring, if you have this mindset of how you look at yourself and you consistently framing and then asking what your priorities are, then you know what? The world is always open to you. And I actually think that that mindset is what's always open. When I got to the WNBA, because you asked, It was stunning to me. I had come out of the world of men's golf. There was a ton of money in men's golf. $2 million was a tip. The differential in me making my budget was $2 million, and I could never get it. Because as soon as I'd bring it in, somebody else would leave. And I was not prepared at the time. Now, this is back in 2005 to 2011. I was not prepared for the amount of sexism, racism, homophobia, and just overall dismissal of women in general. And it took me a long time, well, maybe not that long. I had to identify what our goals were with that, focus, focus, focus. But then understand where the world was. So instead of being a marketer, I actually thought I was an anthropologist, which was understanding how the world felt about women. And so that's your reference to that. How did the world feel about women? How did we feel about each other? And then how did we feel about ourselves? And as I was able to work through that rubric, in 6 years' time, I was able to create a business that was sustainable, that actually was in the black, which everyone said could not happen, and actually built believers in media and television and merchandising and digital. And when I was able to achieve that, I said, okay, it's time for me to go home and do some other things.
Okay, Barbara, you have had, can you guys hear me? Okay, Barbara has had a number of professional experiences in finance. She has been in government affairs as part of a corporate environment. She was a presidential appointee, as I shared with you, as the CEO of AmeriCorps. So, and you're a significant philanthropist and board member now. So when you think about what you did to make the changes from one of those to another, what did you rely on in making those decisions about what your purpose, passion, and plan would be?
So I wish I could say I had a purpose, passion, and plan as a young person. And it's funny, one of my dear friends from my 20s, my roommate from my 20s is here, so she can keep me honest. But I don't think in my 20s I had a plan. And I remember my first professional work was in state government. I worked for the governor of Illinois. And when I switched, and I was there 5 or 6 years, which at the time my friends had switched jobs, I hadn't switched jobs. I started to switch jobs into something else, and I thought, this isn't linear. This doesn't make sense. And what you don't have the vision of in your 20s is that things all may not seem linear at the time, but they come together because working in government built into my experience of working at JP Morgan Chase, which then built into my experience of getting involved in philanthropy and engaged in our family foundation. And it really all came together at AmeriCorps because what AmeriCorps needed when I was there was leadership and some business systems put into place, which sounds really boring, but not very many people who had led AmeriCorps had any sort of business background or any interest in making the kind of important systems issues that needed to be made. And so I found myself becoming the business process person and had the luxury, and I'm very grateful I was able to recruit some really talented people from my private sector experience to come join me there to really make some big changes that needed desperately to be made. But I certainly would never have thought at 28 that I would ever be leading AmeriCorps or that I would have had a business career in between. But it really did all come together in my AmeriCorps role. After that, I have been mostly involved in philanthropy and nonprofit work, but it's been interesting to see where your passion leads you. And very unexpectedly, my passion has led me in part as a volunteer to work with the University of Chicago. And they are creating a new program similar to a program that's currently offered at Harvard and Stanford and Notre Dame that focuses on people trying to make the shift from their first or business careers into something in the social impact space. So again, this is a new industry in higher education, or a new offering that University of Chicago is offering, but again, it exists other places, and I'm confident we'll start to see more of these programs at other universities because people, And when I say our age, I recognize this group is many different ages. But people who are leaving their first career and want to figure out and want the luxury of the 9 months on campus that they never had previously. I shouldn't say never had previously. The 9 months on campus where they're I can't speak for all of you, but I spent my college years worrying about what I was going to do next and how I was going to get out of college and get into the workforce, and maybe a little bit crazy mind space about some boys I was chasing at the time. But I'd love to go back now and not worry about money and not worry about chasing boys and be focused on the academics that I really wasn't as focused on at that stage in life. In terms of, and when I say academics, I mean focused on things like reading the great books or learning about liberal arts topics that I didn't dig into when I was in school. Anyway, I got a little off topic there. The opportunity to go back to school to focus on where you might want to take your career next, because so many people in their 50s and 60s who are done with their first career perhaps have a ton to offer. And so using your talents in a new phase, using your business skills in a nonprofit world, for example, is a great next step. I would also want to quickly put in your mind that there's some interesting books out there on this topic, and the two I'm going to mention, one by Arthur Brooks and one by David Brooks, are not the only ones, but they're two really interesting books that have been written in the last 5 years that focus on this topic of how you switch from a career into a career of purpose. And a career of purpose might not be employment, it might be volunteer, or it might be employment. Because I'll tell you, there's a whole lot of executive director positions and leadership positions in nonprofits that are going to become available as baby boomers start to leave, and there's going to be a real need for another generation, but that another generation could be people who already have 40 years of experience.
Thank you. What are your books?
I'm sorry, one's called Strength to Strength, and the other's called The Second Mountain, and I'm pretty sure Second Mountain is David Brooks, and Strength to Strength is Arthur Brooks. And they're not related. It's just coincidental that they have the same last name.
Okay, I'm trying this. How is it coming across? No. I will speak really loudly. Donna, let's talk about that moment of when you make the change. You know, sometimes the change is dictated for us. Sometimes we get frozen in our ability to make a change. What tools would you rely on? What process do you go through when you're thinking about the opportunity, the need, the demand for change in your trajectory?
Oh, wow. Did we practice this question? Okay. I just want to make sure that I didn't have a brilliant answer one day, and today I'm forgetting it. Well, it's interesting because the first time I had to make this change, I was 23 years old. I played professional basketball. It existed 3 years, and it folded. And so there I was, what am I going to do with my life? But again, during my time playing, I had a lot of interaction with the media, and I knew that I liked that, and it spoke to me, and so therefore I followed through and I pursued it and developed a career, an executive career ultimately in media. When I left the WNBA, much later, I actually relied on my girlfriends. They were very, very helpful, and they gave me some advice, but I also put together a matrix of priorities. Because by this time, I'd been in the workplace a long time. I've dealt with the good and the bad and the ugly, like we all do, right? Anybody here not deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly? But we all have, right? And so you get to that stage in your life when you say, you know what, I think I can self-direct and prioritize. And so I said, I want 3 things. The one thing, no matter what I want to do, I wanted it to have impact. I wanted it to be difference-making, because that was important to me. Running the WNBA was impact-making. Celebrating its 28th year coming up next season, I know that we had a tremendous part in making sure that happened. The second thing is I only wanted to work with good people. I know what the not good people was working like, and I made it through, but That's enough already, okay? And the third thing, because I've always prioritized this, I wanted to have fun. And you know, when you want to have fun, it's funny. I worked for the PGA Tour for 17 years, and we were doing our values. And I'm sitting on the room with all the guys who, by the way, loved this work so much, but they didn't really want to admit it because then it wouldn't be serious. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. But we're also an entertainment business, and people come to have fun, so why shouldn't we have fun? And they thought it was frivolous. And I'm going to tell you what. Life is short, and fun is not frivolous. It's just not. And so that's how... And so, and hi to everybody back there behind the camera, because we said we'd do that, right? Hello. And so therefore, I set my priorities, and then when things started to happen, the phone would ring, consulting opportunities, board opportunities, I'd put them through the filter, and then use that as a way to make my decisions moving forward.
So, Barbara, you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love for you to go deep because you have the opportunity and are able to think about organizations from a philanthropic point of view. Is that different? And does it fulfill your purpose or passion differently than bringing your other skills and capabilities to the task at hand?
So it does lean into other aspects of what you've done in the past, but for one thing, I want to comment that it's a real privilege to be able to do philanthropic work, and I want to call out my husband, Peter Bowe, who is my partner in this, and without this being a shared passion, it would never have happened. So it's great that we get to work together on these sorts of things. But so you learn a lot along the way. Among the things that we've learned is that we enjoy engaging in projects with organizations that we can have a little bit of a hand in shaping, because I think my husband and I are both good at the strategy piece. And so we like to work with organizations to help shape things. But the other thing we learned early on is you need to work with organizations that have shared values, that have their own creativity, and that can get it done. Because we've donated to organizations that didn't have the capacity or the shared vision, and it's really disappointing. And there is no recourse. Well, there probably is some recourse, but you're not going to employ that recourse. And so we learned by our mistakes, some mistakes we made early. We have a partnership with the Policy Circle in terms of the CLEAR program, and it was really a partnership that the Policy Circle brought to us. But we had shared values, a shared vision, and we had confidence that that this organization, the Policy Circle, could execute. And that is really important. But some people just want to give money to support an organization for their broad objectives, and we do some of that. But we really particularly enjoy engaging with organizations. Again, shared value and visions, really important, but where we can tinker a little bit along the way. And we've had fun working with the Policy Circle team in terms of perfecting the vision, but I have to say, in this case, they've done the work, all the work, and put together a great team and hired great people to move the vision forward. And in other things that we've been involved with, our foundation initially was focused on closing the opportunity gap, which we defined very broadly, but is trying to help support organizations who are helping people who are trying to figure out their lives, be that returning citizens or people who were trying to get back in the workforce, women trying to get back into the workforce for a variety of reasons. We've since pivoted, although we haven't abandoned that, to focusing on civic education and civic dialogue. And that's really very much what the Policy Circle is doing.
Since we're here with the Policy Circle, just give us 1 minute about what has happened with the CLEAR program and specifically the focus and how it's impacting people in the military. It's amazing. Is anybody here involved in that? Oh, please, Barbara, share.
So this has been a really fun and exciting initiative. So the Policy Circle created the CLEAR program a couple of years ago, and it was a way to go deep to provide women participants with the confidence and the information and the education and a cohort to give them the ability to move forward in their civic journey, however they defined that, more ambitiously. And we loved the cohort concept. We loved the outcome notion that you would move women along their journey so that they had more confidence. And let's face it, we still, I hate to generalize, but women want to be better prepared and need more pushing to enter the arena confidently. And so we felt that the CLEAR program really provided those tools. And so in conversation with the policy circle, they were looking for ways to expand the reach so that a broader circle of women would be aware of the program and therefore able to participate in it. And they came up with the good idea of reaching out to the veterans community. And then they found Marjorie Eastman, who was fantastic and really exceeded our expectations. So it was a combo platter of, again, a kind of a shared vision of wanting more women to engage with this program, but not really knowing how to do it. And it was the policy circle team who came up with the suggestions, and then we met and kind of refined the thinking.
So Donna, this sounds a lot like what you were talking about with making an impact. And you have made an impact with Gen W. Share with this group what it is, why you did it, and what it's doing in lives.
I'd be happy to. Jennifer, you want to add in here if you want? No? Okay. So so when I got back to Jacksonville, in case you can't tell, I'm born and raised in New York, moved to Jacksonville, Florida to work for the PGA Tour. When I'm in Jacksonville, sometimes people actually ask me where I'm from, and I love that. I said, you can't tell? I'm fitting in. Anyway, I got back, and I really knew in my heart that working on behalf of women and girls was going to be something that stayed a part of my life for the rest of my life, because I learned so much representing these unbelievably wonderful female athletes, the best in the world, and building a sustainable business around them. And so I decided, because I had been around the country speaking and the world in this incredibly privileged position, I came home to the South. And Kathy, you grew up in the South. Charlene, you grew up in the South. Jacksonville had a view of itself. And I said, there's women. What I found, there were great women everywhere. And they are in the weeds or the reeds. And they do want an invitation. And, given the chance to amplify their voices was an upside for everyone. And so I said, well, I'm going to create this organization. I'm going to call it Generation W. It's going to be about educating, inspiring, and connecting women in the service of building better communities. I didn't want to create a girl ghetto, like we'd be over here, right? The importance of us not only realizing our own selves is to be able to contribute in a way that's more meaningful for this planet. And so while we're doing what we want to do, we're inviting men in, and we're also inviting our communities in, and also observing the fact that I used to call it, we did this research on a scorecard. Look at where leadership is in your immediate world. And assess what the makeup of that leadership has on the impact of the things that are important to you. And so we started to build it, and it was just me, literally. I had this idea. My background's in media. I was a producer, director, writer. I had a production company that we built for the tour. And I just started going around, and people said, wow, that sounds like a good idea. No one said to me they had no idea what I was talking about, but they said they would do it. And so 13 years ago, much like the Policy Center grew up, we started this national thought leadership event out of Jacksonville, Florida, and that was important. That was my home. I believe in excellence. We can have excellence here. And all the women that I met along the way said, if you do this, we'll come. By the way, right? That's what we do for each other. And that's what everyone did for our community. 13 years later, they're still coming. And in the process, then we also created a teen girl event. I always want to do something for girls, and I have to look. Listen, guys, I'm a mother of sons, and my husband's amazing, but we all have a little girl in us. And for the women here, they'll know you have an age of a girl you revert to every now and then. I don't care how old we go. Think about it, right? I have my friend, Jerry Laybourne, amazing woman. She turned 75. She'll say to me, that's my third grade self. Anyway, so we rolled out Generation WOW, and that was 11 years ago. This past month, we did a program for 600 girls in, what do we call it, Orange County, right here in Orlando, ninth largest school district. We're in every single one of their schools with club programming. It's all about the positive and the possible. And then last week, which is probably why I'm still on this high, we had over 400 girls, 120 women mentors for the positive and the possible Generation WOW right here, right in Jacksonville, which is our home. And now we're looking to expand it across the country. So it is the work of your soul, right? If it's a bad day, I get a text from a young girl or even a woman, and you say, you know, life's worth living, because you know what? I can help somebody, and along the way, so many people are still helping me. So
That is such a great way. Sadly, we have to end. So, thank you. Yeah. Now you can take it. Thank you all for.